Mr. Godfrey here. We're going to look at this last worksheet where we are dividing fractions. Now, we are going to do one thing that's same that we did with everything that we've done, and that is if we have a mixed number, we are going to change it to its improper fractions. We're also going to remember that we cannot pre-reduce when we're dividing. Okay? This multiplication was the only operation where pre-reducing is possible. However, as you'll see as we go through this, there will come an opportunity for us to reduce when it comes to dividing fractions. So let's take a look at that and see what we can discover here. First thing on number 1 here, we do have a mixed number, so we want to change it into its improper fraction form. So 9 times 5 is 45 and 4 is a 49. So we have 49 divided by 9 divided by now a -6, and we're going to put that integer over 1. Now, even though I would want to reduce the 9 and the 6, I cannot, because we cannot pre-reduce over any kind of sign. So we're going to go to the next step of dividing. And the next step of division, you remember, is to interpret this division sign. The division sign means to multiply by the reciprocal. So this means 49 multiplied by the reciprocal of this next number. So we're going to rewrite this fraction, or rewrite this expression, excuse me, interpreting that sign. So we're going to have 49 over 9 times now the reciprocal of this. So we're going to flip that number over. Okay, now you'll notice we've gone from a division problem which we cannot pre-reduce to a multiplication problem which we could pre-reduce, because now this is a multiplication problem, and as long as it's multiplication, that's the one operation where I could pre-reduce. So before I go any further, I want to look to pre-reduce. Now, it just so happens that this problem doesn't allow me to pre-reduce. There are no common factors, so I'm going to go ahead and just multiply these together. But we could reduce here if we wanted, because we're now dealing with a multiplication of fractions. So we go ahead and multiply. I've got a positive times a negative, so that's going to be a negative number. We have 49 times 1, which is 49. And then we have 9 times 6, which is 54. And because I couldn't pre-reduce, I'm not going to be able to reduce this number as well either. So negative 49 over 54 would be my final answer. So again, while we begin the problem not being able to pre-reduce, because we cannot go over that division sign, because we interpret division to mean multiplying by the reciprocal, we end up with a multiplication problem, at which point we can reduce, and then we can go ahead and finish off the problem. Alright, so let's do a couple more examples. So looking at number 3, we have a mixed number, so we want to turn that into its improper fractions. So this is going to be 2/3 divided by 3 times 8 is 24, plus 3 is 27 over 8. Now I cannot pre-reduce, so I'm going to interpret this division sign. So 2/3 divided by means 2/3 times the reciprocal of this, so that's going to be 8 over 27. Now that it's a multiplication, I can reduce. I look to reduce. There aren't any common factors between my numerator and denominator, so I am going to just have to multiply these together. So 2 times 8 is 16. 3 times 27 is 81. And again, because I could not reduce before I multiplied, I'm not going to be able to reduce after I multiply. So 16 over 81 is my final answer. As we look at number 7, it looks like a little bit of a different problem, but it really is nothing different than what we've been doing. You remember that the division bar means divided by. So actually what we have here is we have a fraction in our numerator, 3/2, divided by a mixed number, 2 4/7 in our denominator. So to make this look a little bit more like what we're used to, let's rewrite it like our other problem. So this means 3/2, and then this fraction bar means divided by, and then I have 2 4/7. Now that looks a little bit more in line with what we're used to. So we want to go ahead and turn that mixed number into its improper fraction. So this is going to be 2 times 7, which is 14, plus 4 is 18 over 7. Now again, I cannot pre-reduce because I have a division sign, so we'll interpret this division sign. The division sign means to multiply this by the reciprocal of this second fraction, so that's 7 over 18. Now that it's a multiplication problem, I want to go ahead and pre-reduce. And in this particular problem, I do have some common factors. 3 and 18 are both divisible by 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1, 18 divided by 3 is 6. Now, I don't have anything else I can divide by because 7 is prime, so now that we've done all our pre-reducing, we'll go ahead and multiply these fractions together. So positive times a positive is going to give me a positive fraction. 1 times 7 in my numerator is 7. 2 times 6 in my denominator is a 12, and because I pre-reduced, I know this fraction is going to be reduced, so 7 over 12 is my final answer. So number 8 is another one of those problems where the division sign is written as a fraction. So we're going to rewrite this into something that looks a little bit more familiar to us. So we have 3 and 1/10, and then we have this fraction bar, which means divided by -2. Then I'm going to go ahead and change this into its improper fraction form. So this is 31 over 10 divided by, and then we're going to have -2, and we're going to put that over 1, make that into its fraction form. I cannot pre-reduce because there's a division sign, and I can't do that. The only time I can do that is with multiplication. So I'm going to interpret this division sign and rewrite this. So 31 over 10 divided by 2 means to multiply by the reciprocal of that. Now that it's a multiplication problem, I would reduce if I could. There are no common factors here, so I'll just go ahead and multiply my numerator times my numerator, my denominator times my denominator, and I have a positive and a negative, which means my answer is going to be a negative, and because I could not pre-reduce, I'm not going to be able to reduce this fraction at the end either, so -31 over 20 is my final answer. So a few reminders when dividing. We turn our mixed numbers into improper fractions. We cannot pre-reduce. Multiplication is the only time we can pre-reduce, so we cannot pre-reduce. We then interpret that division sign into multiply by the reciprocal, so we turn that division problem into a multiplication problem. Now that it is a multiplication problem, go ahead and pre-reduce. Once you pre-reduce, then just go ahead and multiply those numbers, numerators times numerators, denominators times denominators, and make sure you got all your positives and negatives taken care of so you get the appropriate sign for your final answer.